just quickly share my screen.
Sure.
So the content of my presentation is mainly meant for early stage startups looking for funding. Not sure how applicable it is for other service-based service providers here. But I know for a fact that one of the best ways to get into making products is to spend time providing a service, and at a point when you've understood the customer's need and you notice a repetitive need from a customer to whom you're providing such a service, you decide to kind of productize that service and turn it into a product. So if any of you are at that stage, it could be applicable to you as well. And it's going to be about value hypothesis, and feel free to interrupt. It is not like a monologue I'm having here. It would be beneficial if you guys can interact. Let me just quickly share my screen. Okay. So can everybody see my screen? Give me a thumbs up, something.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Okay, cool. So let's just get into what I'll be covering. So I'll be covering why value hypothesis, why it's important to have a value hypothesis, and how exactly it helps you. Second is get into what exactly is value hypothesis and how can you actually put it together. Then we'll take an example of one product company and one service company, and we'll try to determine the value hypothesis. It's a hypothetical case, kind of went double hypothesis there, but yes, I hope this will be fun for you guys to understand. And we'll also understand what are the next steps or action points you can take home after this quick presentation. So why value hypothesis? In three areas. One is very specific to funding and growth. It delivers a lot of clarity to investors, so they know what is the value that your company delivers and what is the proposed value it is going to deliver in the future. So without understanding value hypothesis, if you go to a investor or if you try to make a pitch deck or something and sell a value without being able to clearly specify that this is the value hypothesis that I'm delivering, you probably may not get like a second chance to interact with the same person. So it's very important that you have clarity on the value hypothesis when you actually go to meet an investor or you talk to someone. And second thing is, it definitely makes it very easy to make projections. So you would have determined your value based on XYZ calculations and parameters. So based on how those parameters are going to change in the future, say based on the scale of a number of customers, based on the new technology that's going to come, based on ABC activities, you say this is how my value is going to increase or this is how my value is going to change, and you'll be able to project that and make those projections if you have clarity on these numbers. So yes, it is very number related. It is going to be very tangible, and it's more or less a statement that contains some numbers that you're constantly trying to prove and improve upon, which we'll get into what exactly is value hypothesis. So this is the importance of value hypothesis. So you need it to get funding. Without it, it's very difficult to get someone to trust you on what your company is doing. And for marketing, for sales, and for service as well, value hypothesis is very important because it will help you to prioritize who is the preferred customer, what is the package. Say you have 2-3 products, which is the product that you will prioritize more on, and what kind of targets would you keep for your customer acquisition cost, how much you should really be spending, how much is it okay to spend. So all of these numbers become very clear if you know what your value hypothesis is. So what exactly is value hypothesis? So hypothesis, as you guys, especially if you were into science background at school, it would be very simple. So it's an assumption that can be validated through experience and observation, of course. So it has to be tangible. Value hypothesis has to be tangible. You have to specify numbers. And the parts of making the hypothesis is very simple. So you just talk about who has the problem. You always start with the problem because that's where you're going to derive the value from on solving the problem. So you basically say who has the problem, what is the problem and what is the proposed solution, right? Just give me 1 second. Sorry, guys.
You're on mute, Simona.
Right. So it essentially talks about who has the problem, what is the problem, and what is the proposed solution. So let's get into a little more detail. Okay. Okay. So here it is. So let's take up a small example of a product, Smart Wig. Just an example product. So here's the problem statement that I put together. If you guys can relate to it, or if you can ask me some doubts, go ahead. So I believe that bald people who lose their temper, where bald people lose their temper when people comment on their hair. And without a cooling system, their hot-headedness goes out of control, causing damage to the environment. Right? So it's essentially that bald people, if you comment on their hair, they get hot-headed and they cause damage to the environment around them. So now this is the problem statement that I put together. So I put that who has the problem? It's bald people. So what is the problem? It's that they get hot-headed and cause damage to the environment. And what is the proposed solution? You're going to give them a wig that, you know, instantly cools their head when you know, it realizes that they're getting hot-headed or something like that, right? So how would you actually go about finding the value hypothesis for this? How would you put a number to it? So first, you have your target audience. So you know that you're reaching out only to bald people, and you're reaching out to bald people who are okay with wearing wigs. So that narrows down your target audience even further. And then you want to know what is the proposed value, right, to that solution. So you're seeing what is the problem. So the problem is that they're causing damage. So you would probably want to go speak to people who have caused such damage and understand what is the amount of damage that they've caused in each time. So say, for example, your wig has a lifetime of, say, 1 year, right? And in 1 year, they've caused X amount of damage to the environment. So say they're causing $1,000 worth damage. So your solution is actually going to save them $1,000 in case it works, right? So you have a number, $1,000. Now, when you actually go to the customer, you'd be able to validate that and validate your hypothesis and move forward. Okay, someone says that they're only willing to spend 500 on it. Someone says they're only willing to spend 100 on it. So what is the approximate value that someone is actually willing to pay for it? Would be like a pretty way to specify what exactly is the value that your product delivers. So it's kind of easy when it comes to a hypothetical product like this. But when you have like an actual product, you may have many parameters that are varying, but it always makes sense to get out there and speak to the customers, which is what I'll be covering as your action points of the next steps. So anyone wants to add anything, any questions, any remarks, please feel free to butt in. Next service is tea recommender, right? So here's someone who wants to provide a service. So they're making a problem statement that tea drinkers get in a bad mood if they don't get their taste of tea and at the right time, which causes them to lose productivity at work, and which can be solved by a timely tea recommendation, right? So I don't know how many of you are tea drinkers here, but there are different flavors of tea which they prefer, and teas have different effects and benefits. So if you can remind someone to take a break during work and get a specific cup of tea, then apparently their productivity is going to increase. So that is the problem statement, right? So here, who is the target audience? The target audience or the target group are the people who drink tea, right? And you might want to narrow it down very specifically to a measurable level of productivity. So say, for example, you go to a coder, right? And you say, how many lines of code are you putting out, right? Or how many bug fixes are you doing? Or how many story points are you kind of getting done in a day? And then you say with the tea, this is how much you get done, and without the tea recommendation, this is how much you get done. So this is how you say this is the tangible amount of value that my tea recommending service is going to provide you, right? And that is when you can actually put a number saying that, so this person is able to do 10 story points extra every day because of my tea recommendation. And this engineer is actually being paid $5,000 every month. So 10% is $500. So for my tea recommendation service, I can put a value hypothesis of $500, right? So again, it's very hypothetical here. So it would be quite different in real life. Hopefully, the next steps can help you get a better idea on your value hypothesis. So I'm sure everyone's heard of Genbutsu. So this is one of Toyota's principles, where it asks the managers or whoever's in charge to get out to the field and actually go and see what is the source of the issue, or go meet the customer and be on the field, basically. So you actually have to go speak to the customer. If you don't speak to the customers and you're only sitting back and coding, as I've seen in many product startups, you've not even spoken to the person, enough number of people, and taking your prototype to the market again and again to get user testing done, you will not be able to formulate a accurate value hypothesis. So getting out there is definitely the number one thing. And once you get out there, you'll start understanding what are the problems they face, and you'll be able to formulate the right questions. So getting information from the customer or the potential customer that you're speaking to all depends on who asks the right questions. So you may spend 2-3 hours speaking with them, but if you don't ask them the right questions, which can help you piece together value hypothesis, it would not make any sense. So you need to be able to ask them, would you pay 100 rupees for this? Or if I'm giving it free of cost to you, but say I charge 1,000, will you still buy it? Right? These are kind of questions that you need to formulate and ask. So first set of questions is you need to confirm whether they actually have the problem. So you think they have a problem, but do they actually have the problem? So there are 4 stages of a problem. One is they have a problem and they don't know that they have a problem. Second is they have a problem, they know they have a problem, but they don't want to do anything about it. Third is they have a problem, they try to do something about it, but it's not working out and they're not really concerned that much about it. And fourth is they actually tried it, they failed, they're now having a budget to solve that issue, and they're actively looking for someone to come and help them solve that problem. So the fourth kind are the kind of customers that I think Mr. Rajesh also indicated. So those would be the innovators or the early adopters whom you would want to actually talk to, not the person who has a problem but doesn't even know that they have a problem. So you would spend a lot of money and time just educating that person, and you don't really want to spend time with that. So and third thing is understand the market type, because you want to know whether you're entering an existing market, a resegmented market, a niche market, or a clone market. Like Ola Uber question was like a clone market type question. Right? So you need to know what is the market you're entering. So you need to do a little bit of competitor research as well and market research before you actually go and speak to the customers. That will actually help you make right questions and frame the questions that you can use to get answers which will validate your value hypothesis. Right. And as always, I'd like to leave you guys with this. You can't wait for inspiration. You have to go after it with a club. This quote is by Jack London. So he's one of the authors who wrote the books that I've reread, and really cool author. And you guys should check out his book. But either way, no one's going to give it on a platter. You'll have to go after it is the idea, and proactive attitude is what works in startups all the time. So thank you guys. Hope you found my session a little humorous, because I was going for that. Thank you, Nikhil. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask.